Hello, welcome to Tasty Tuesday. Today we're going to be making a Thai-style tofu curry with vegetables. I'm Daryl Minch, the Family and Community Health Sciences educator here in Somerset County, and we're part of Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Somerset County. So I'm going to start by showing you our ingredients today, and then I'm going to demonstrate the recipe. We will provide the recipe at in the chat later in this presentation. You might wonder why we're having a recording today, but all of us are at a statewide conference today, so I pre-recorded this program. So today the key signature ingredient that we're going to be using is tofu. And I don't know how many of you that have used tofu, cooked with it. Many of us have had it to eat in, for instance, hot and sour soup or some other Asian type dishes. So tofu is nothing more than soybean milk that has been coagulated. So they take the soybean milk, they cook the soybeans, they drain off the milk, and then they use usually calcium to coagulate the soybeans, separating those curds and whey. The consistency varies by how long they allow those curds to develop, and then they press them to get what we call a soybean cake. So tofu comes in different firmnesses. It goes something called silken, which is very much like a sour cream or a very thick Greek yogurt. It's very silky, which hence its name, and you can use it in creams, cream sauces, dips, smoothies, even some desserts. The next one is firm. It holds together really nice. It's great in soups and other dishes. And then extra firm, and that's what we're using today. So this will hold up well in a stir fry, or perhaps if you wanted to grill it, you can use it in those ways. Now, tofu has very little flavor. You're going to want to add something to it. It's going to soak up the flavor of your dish just like a sponge. And that's where the beauty of it is. It's high in protein because of the soybeans. It's a vegetable protein, so that's great. There's no cholesterol, very little fat. Calories are good. Tofu also, because most of it's processed using calcium to get it to coagulate, is high in calcium. You can get like 20% of your required amount in, a serving of tofu. It's also a good source of magnesium, and it has isoflavones, which are a plant compound that have some health benefits. So some of the research looks at tofu consumption and health, has seen some benefits for heart health, controlling diabetes, cancer prevention. So tofu is a good food. It's generally packed in water. You will find it in the refrigerated section, usually near the produce in a supermarket, or perhaps in a refrigerated section where they have the health foods or vegetarian type foods. To use this, you're going to open it up and we're going to drain off the water. So I'm just going to show you how that works quickly. Do it over a sink or over a dish, because there is, say, you don't want the water to go all over. And you can just put it into a small strainer for a minute to drain off some of the liquid. And I'm just going to hold it up for you so you can see this. So it's a block. It's very soft. It's like cheese, like a soft, semi-firm cheese in consistency, kind of like a brie or a camembert in consistency. And what you're going to do with this is you're going to cut it into cubes, about 1/2-inch cubes. So you're going to want to slice it across this way and then into cubes. If you want to drain it a little bit more in a colander or on some paper towels, that will also work. Some people take tofu and they press it even more by putting paper towels or a clean cloth towel under and on top, and then putting like a cutting board and then a weight on top, and then putting that in the refrigerator to squeeze out more water, and that makes it really firm, and that's good if you wanted to grill it. You can also, if you squeeze out enough, you can crumble it up and use it as you might use a ground chicken. So that's our tofu. The recipe is going to have the other alternatives. So we wanted to make this with the tofu to show you what that's like. But I also regularly use chicken. Cube it and you'll cook the chicken up. Chicken breast works really well, or boneless chicken thighs. I have sometimes made this dish using shrimp or some other fish. So it's great that you can vary the protein in this dish. Other signature items you're going to need. You are going to need some coconut milk. So coconut milk, there's lots of brands of this available in the market. And the two choices you generally have are the regular coconut milk, and then there's often one that says light, L-I-T-E. It's a lower fat version. If I can, that's the one I get. The last time I was at the market, they didn't have any of that, so I purchased the regular full fat version. Now, be aware that you want coconut milk. Generally, you find it in amongst the Asian food items or in the international aisles of your supermarket. You do not want to use cream of coconut. Cream of coconut's the very thick, sugared coconut liquid that's used a lot in beverages and desserts. We don't want that high sugar version. This is strictly coconut, some fat, depending on which brand you buy. It's, you know, a good source. Some other things I use it for, sometimes I substitute maybe a quarter of the water when I'm cooking rice and add the coconut milk to make up the difference, and it gives the rice a nice coconut flavor. And it's also a lower fat, low sugar additive for smoothies and other drinks if you like that coconut flavor. Now the star of this dish is the flavoring. So what we're going to use is a Thai curry. And curry is just a blend of spice mixes. In the Thai cooking, they use either a red or a green paste. So the difference is pretty subtle besides the color. So the green, it's a green chili pepper, garlic, lemongrass, some other spices, salt, shallots, and lime peel. And then the red one starts off with the red chili pepper, again, the garlic, the lemongrass, the shallots, coriander root, and some lime peel. So similar, not a big difference, but you know, it's the red or the green peppers. I'm going to use the green today. I like the color of green. It's a little bit milder, I think, but the Thai curries are not hot and spicy. Okay, so if you want more heat to your dish, you could add some Thai chilies, which are quite spicy. You could add some red pepper flakes, which I might do today because I like spice. Or you could use some jalapeno pepper. That added heat is not coming from the curry, it's coming from whichever spice pepper you add. So we're going to use the green curry today. It is a paste. Once you open it, you want to leave it in the refrigerator. And generally recipes use probably a tablespoon or two, maybe three, depending on what flavor you're looking for of the paste. So this jar will probably do, 3 meals. You can also sometimes get the paste in packets, like foil packets. And those are your choices there. Another ingredient that you may choose to use that's unique to the Thai cooking is fish sauce. So fish sauce is used in many dishes in Asian cooking. It is made from anchovies, water, some sugar, and it's kind of fermented. It is a very strong flavor, so you may or may not like it. It is totally optional in the dish. You can use 1 or 2 tablespoons, but here is the dietary caution. It is extremely high in sodium. So just so you know, 1 tablespoon of fish sauce has 1,480 milligrams of sodium. Now, granted, this dish is easily going to serve 4 people, maybe more depending on portion size and appetites. So you're not getting that full amount, but it is a very salty condiment. What it does add is that brininess to the dish and adds that umami flavor. So I am going to use a tablespoon of it in, and I'm going to make sure that I cut back on the sodium tomorrow or the rest of the day, because it is so high. Now the vegetables in the dish, again, this is a great go-to dish for me because you can use whatever you have on hand. I almost always use a red pepper. You want to chop it up or cut it into strips. Probably if I chopped it, I'd want 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup. If I'm going to do a strips, I probably use this whole pepper. So I like red. You could use green, just small pieces, and we're going to saute that up a little bit. I often make the dish with broccoli. I've also used pea pods, and if I'm using those, if they're fresh, I usually steam them till they're tender crisp in my microwave oven. Or if I'm using frozen, I don't need to do that. I do thaw them if they're frozen because I don't want any added extra water in the dish. Today we're going to use spinach. So I bought the bag spinach. This is the baby spinach, so it's fairly small. Be sure to read the bag when you purchase spinach like this because this one has to be washed. If it says pre-washed, ready to eat, then do not wash it. Food science experts say do not go ahead and wash it again, but this one does not say that, so I need to wash this just as I would any of my produce. And I'm going to use this whole bag because as anyone who cooks spinach knows, it cooks down to next to nothing. So this is 8-ounce bag, and it is a great way to add greens to your family's diet, especially if they're not big green fans. Spinach is great because it's low in calorie and it is chock full of nutrients. It's high in vitamin K, C, folate. Because it's high in the carotenoids, you get a lot of vitamin A. Has a good source of insoluble fiber and 2 nutrients that are unique to greens that are really good for us are lutein and zeaxanthin. And they're great because those are antioxidants that have good research to show that they help protect our eyes against macular degeneration. So really we would recommend people eat 5 servings of greens a week. That's a lot, but every little bit helps. So I am going to put this whole bag of spinach in for our greens tonight. The only other ingredients you will need is perhaps a little cornstarch. I often find I need to thicken the sauce a little bit, so I will add about 1 tablespoon to some of the coconut milk to start, and then I may need to add a little bit more later because of the water content in the vegetables. So it's the tofu, the red pepper, again that's optional too, whatever vegetables you choose. If I was using the broccoli or the peas, I would use at least 2 cups of those. Can of coconut milk, your Thai curry paste, fish sauce optional, red pepper flakes optional, and I usually serve this over hot cooked rice. It would also be good over rice noodles. So I'm going to pre-prep all these ingredients, and then I will show you how to cook it. So let's pause for a minute and then we'll move to the stove. Okay, so we're back. What I did is I put my saucepan on a medium heat. I added 2 tablespoons of oil, and I've already started cooking up the red pepper. I just want to saute it again until it's tender crisp. You don't want it to be too soft. And what I forgot to tell you is I did cube up the tofu. And then what I did is I added 1 tablespoon of the curry powder, curry paste to this and tossed it around. If you can let that sit for maybe 15 minutes or up to an hour in the refrigerator, if you're going to leave it more than the short time, it helps the flavor of the tofu. It absorbs some of that flavor and it'll be really nice. So our red pepper is almost soft here. You don't really want to brown it, so you want to use a low heat. And now I'm going to put in my tofu. Make sure I get all the little pieces. Be very gentle with this because while it's firm and it holds up fairly well, I'm going to turn up the heat now somewhat to medium-high. It's still quite fragile. It's not a piece of meat. It is tofu. So we're just going to let that sit a little bit and see if we can get it to heat through. It probably won't brown too much, but this is a fully cooked product. It is, you don't have to worry about making sure you've gotten rid of any bacteria. So all we have to do is make sure it gets hot and allow the flavors to develop. going to let that cook up a minute. What I did is I took a little bit of my coconut milk, I'm using the whole can, I poured it into a cup, and I added 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to this, and I'm just whisking it up. You can use a fork, or I have this cute little whisk, and I'll use that to help thicken the dish here. I am going to now, while I'm cooking this up, add about a I'll add a half teaspoon of crushed red pepper. I'm very excited about this. I got this from a friend gave me chili peppers at the end of the summer, and I dried them and then ground them up. So I decided next year I'm going to grow some of those chili peppers too. Really nice and fresh. Just going to give this a quick stir a little bit. Now, if I was using chicken, I would brown the chicken first, remove it, then do the vegetables, and then return it to the pan. The chicken would have to be cooked almost not completely, because you are going to cook it a little bit more in the sauce, and it'll finish cooking then. But I would definitely brown the chicken separately. If I was using shrimp or some other seafood, no need to cook that ahead. You can just do that right in the sauce, because shrimp cooks very quickly. Just another stir. Smells great. Another ingredient I'm going to add now that I forgot to tell you earlier is about a teaspoon of dried basil. Now, Thai dishes often use basil. They use any kind of basil, but they often use Thai basil. If you have Thai basil available or regular basil available in your garden, or you get some at the store or the market when it's in season, it's great. You would just add that at the end of the dish. So I'm just adding the basil now because I don't have any fresh basil. But I'll tell you later where to add that. So this is heating through nicely. We're going to move ahead with the rest of the dish. So I'm going to stir it, lower the heat a little bit. I'm going to stir in 1 can of the coconut milk. I'm going to add the coconut milk where I put the cornstarch in there now too. Stir that around just a little bit. And now I'm going to add my other tablespoon of the green curry. This doesn't have to be exact. If you like a lot of the curry flavor, you can add just a little bit more. Trying to get all the paste off my measuring spoon there. So now we're just going to stir this up. The green curry is not a bright green. It's a little bit olive, not more yellow than green. Okay, so we're going to bring this up to a simmer. And let's see. We're also going to add our fish sauce. 1 tablespoon will be plenty. Stir this around a little bit. Now you want to make sure the heat's not too high. I will tell you that one issue I've had with this dish from time to time is sometimes whether it's the heat or just the different ingredients, the coconut milk will start to curdle. Nothing wrong with it from a edibility standpoint, but it does not look pretty, so we're going to try to avoid that. Just keep it kind of low. And I want to bring this up to a simmer. And at that point, we're going to add the spinach. Let me just go off camera and get the spinach for you. Okay. So I've rinsed my spinach off nicely. It's starting to bubble. As soon as I get a nice, not full boil, but a nice simmer, I'm going to start adding in my spinach. A little bit at a time, because it does take up a lot of space. Okay, we're just going to stir that in. It's amazing how much the spinach cooks down. You have this huge bag, and it'll cook down to next to nothing. Okay. Sometimes I put a lid on it to kind of speed up the greens wilting. Oops. Okay, let me grab a lid. Give this one more stir and then we'll just put it on. You're going to cook the spinach till it's fully wilted, tender, but not overcooked. Let's let that cook a moment. In the meantime, you would have cooked your rice or your noodles. This dish reheats really well, so if you have any left over, it makes a nice lunch the next day or a nice extra dinner. It does not freeze. Or I should say, you could freeze it, but it won't come out really nice. But all right, it's starting to wilt. Okay, let's take time out for a minute. We're going to give this a couple minutes and I'll be right back. Okay, so welcome back. Our Thai curry is just about done. I have the greens are wilted, but they're not overly cooked. Let's see if I can give you a close-up of this. All right, so they're not cooked down to mush. They're still nice and pretty, and the rest of the sauce is really sizzling nicely. So we're going to turn off the heat and pour it over my rice in a bowl. And we're ready with our finished dish. So I hope you'll give this a try. The tofu is really fun. It's delicious and nutritious, but you can also switch up the dish and use chicken or seafood for whatever you want. Quick and easy meal for your family or even for just 1 or 2 people. Have a wonderful day. Bye.